Okay, we are live on Facebook, so we'll give it just a minute to load so I can pull everything up and make sure I can see comments, but we are officially live, so don't say anything silly. Just kidding. If you want to say something silly, go for it. Okay, so we're here. I see us. Let's pull us up. Go for it. Okay, yay, we're there. So whoever pops on to watch, always say hi so that we know that you're here, and we're just gonna dive the heck in. So this is Michelle. Just side note, I've known Michelle literally my entire life, so this one's gonna be fun. I can already tell. Hey, Jennifer. So let's just dive the heck in. Michelle, if you want to introduce yourself so I don't screw anything up, that would be awesome. We'll start there.
Well, I thank you, first of all, for allowing me this opportunity to connect with you. And as you said, we've known each other literally your whole life. So I just, I love seeing what you're doing here, and I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this. So I'm Michelle Hammonds. I'm a certified high performance coach, and I help women entrepreneurs deal with some of the overwhelm and day-to-day frustrations that might come up, getting clarity on where you are and where you want to be. And this is the perfect time of year to start talking about that. So I was super excited for the invitation to be here.
Yeah, it's fun. So can you explain for anybody who might not know what exactly a certified high performance coach is?
Yes, absolutely. So there's all kinds of coaches out there in the world, as we know. And if you haven't considered getting a coach, I highly recommend that you probably have something that someone could support you with. And so tonight I'll share a little bit about what that is. But, you know, in high performance coaching, we deal with 6 pillars of high performance. And the interesting part about high performance coaching is it's based on scientific data. And so, you know, what keeps us sustaining improvement over the long duration of time, right? We all can get on a workout routine for 4 weeks or 21, create a new habit in 21 days. But can we do that over 12 months? You know, we tend to taper off as we go. So when we talk about high performance, we're talking about the program was created by the High Performance Institute and the founder, Brendon Burchard, which you may be familiar with. And he studied all of these different aspects of our psychology, our physiology, there's a lot of neurology that goes into this. And so we tackled things like productivity, persuasion, psychology, physiology, presence, and purpose. And really, we sometimes can get hyper focused on like maybe our health or maybe our relationships when we know we need to, or maybe our productivity, but really they're all interrelated. And so you can't go through this bubble in life just focusing on like shotgunning one or the other, because the balance comes, living a fully charged life comes from really understanding how they all interconnect. And that's what high performance coaching will do for you.
Fun. So Brendon Burchard's book is really good too at explaining all those different habits, right?
Yes.
I forget what it's called, but I read it because you gave it to me.
Yes, he has a new best-selling book out. It's called High Performance Habits. It's kind of a foundation into this, what we're talking about here. And, you know, we start with things like clarity and energy, productivity, courage, influence. And, you know, all of us need to work on those different areas. We all can think of somebody that we have a relationship with, whether it's our family or our friends or someone that at work that we could do a better job building a relationship with. Or how about taking care of ourselves better, right? Our self-care.
Yeah.
Are we really paying attention to that? So it deals with a lot of those things that what I love that he says is, you know, common sense is not always common practice. And some of these things sound really easy, right? Like get up and have an exercise routine, but then to actually make that happen each day is very challenging, as we all know. So that's some of what we deal with in high performance.
Cool. Okay, cool. So before we dig into your thing, I have to ask my standard branding question. So I just like to hear from everybody kind of, how do you define branding and how has it impacted your business?
Well, I think branding is really important. And I think of branding personally as like an iconic representation of what it is I'm doing. And so when we think of big brands like Nike or Coke or the ones that have been around a long time, you know, often the branding is actually very simple. That the message comes through. And so I think when we think about branding, you've got to be able to demonstrate or visually create an image that helps someone recognize who you are and know what's behind it. So that's what I think when, how branding plays a role in my everyday stuff. And I'm very visual. So those picture stories of what a brand looks like are really important. So are the words or the name of the business. There's a lot of word plays on things now. You can brand yourself by your name, or you can have some catchy thing, so it comes in different varieties. But I think that the core, when people recognize it, they need to be able to know what's behind that. Like it tells a story on its own.
Cool. I like it. Yeah. I liked when you said too, that the message behind it comes through and it's super simple, because I think that gets lost a lot of times too, that you have to have this huge, crazy, elaborate thing that everybody has to know immediately, but just simple. I liked how you said that.
Yes. And it's right. You just, when you simplify it down, you need to be able to, convey a message quickly. It's a busy, noisy world out there. And so somebody needs to catch that quickly when they're thinking about what you do.
Love it. Perfect. Okay. So what are we going to learn from you today? I'm so excited.
Well, so I'm very excited because I just returned from vacation literally yesterday evening. And so I'm super recharged and a little suntan from being on the beach. But this is my favorite time of year. And earlier I was doing my grocery shopping and I walked in and it said 47 more days to Christmas, right? We all need that reminder before Thanksgiving. But everybody has a season. And a lot of times we think of the season as the new year starts January 1st until the end of the year. Well, this is my season. So I get real excited about this time of year because it's like kind of when I go back to school and I reformulate myself and I think about what I'm going to do for the future. And I really always have a jump start ahead of the new year. So I'm well into the process of what I want to accomplish. And so tonight, I just want to talk about this pre-launch concept, because as you think about your vision, your goals, your dreams that you have for 2019, we've got a blank canvas. And I'll use a lot of art terms here because a lot of times life can get busy and we think, we don't really have a lot of choice. Like we're going to have to go to work tomorrow. Or we're going to have to do this, or this is going to be the way it always is. But the real truth is when you take the reins of your life and you start getting intentional about your time and what's important to you and what you want to do in life, then you can start to move the needle pretty quickly when you have the clarity around that. So we're going to spend some time talking about clarity as it relates to just some basic planning and concepts that could help just quickly get you going in the right direction. The other thing is that we tend to do this planning thing, like I said, most of the world does it at New Year's. And that's really not high performance, right? Because if you're in high performance, you want to be looking at your goals and dreams all the time, because we're going to have those inevitable interruptions or delays, or something will take our attention away from what we're doing. And we want to make sure that we're being intentional about checking in with ourselves too. So setting goals on January 1st or December 1st or whenever it is for you is great. But if you don't revisit them till the next year, then it's probably not so great. So that's what I want to talk about, is just like really thinking about why the intentionality around this is so crucial, because we are all gifted the next 24 hours, maybe, if we're lucky. And if we start to think about it from that perspective, then it starts to bring in to focus the importance of having the intention around, is this really who I am? Is this really who I want to be in life? Is this what I want to do in life? Are these the people I want to have relationships with? And all of that matters. And it's different for everyone. So we're going to dive in here a little bit and just kind of do some pre-thinking and pre-planning. So if you're listening, I would encourage you to grab a notepad because you might want to take some notes about some of the things that you can do to really step forward here.
Yeah.
And so I'll just dive in, and feel free to interrupt me here.
I will. I will
ask any questions as we go along.
And if anyone else has questions as we go, type them in and I'll make sure Michelle gets them.
So one of the biggest things I hear from people is, I don't know my purpose. I'm not sure. I haven't found my purpose. I don't know what my purpose is, and you may be 20, you may be 40, you may be 70 and still having that same question for yourself. And so just to kind of address that, because I think that's where a lot of people get a little stuck right out of the gate, is there's this elusiveness to purpose, that it's something out there that we don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But when you think about purpose in everyday living, it's about how we live today purposefully. Did I take care of my family? Did I take care of myself? Did I do work that I loved? And so when you think about your purpose and mission in life, I want you to give some consideration and maybe jot down a few things around what matters to you. Do you care about serving your family? Do you care about social causes? Is there a particular cause that, really charges you up inside? And I think it's important that we think about, there's things that elevate us and then there's things that drag us down. And we all get to do a little mix of both in life. But when we think about purpose, I want you to think about the things that elevate you. And those things might look like things that when you start working on them, that time goes by really fast and hours will go by. You're in a state of flow and you don't really realize how much time has elapsed, right? You're like, wow, 5 hours just went by and it felt like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
That's probably an activity that's elevating you. Then you have the things that like time ticks on like second by second, right? So just be aware of what purpose means to you. Like if you give back and serve your life and the people around you each day, what does that include? And really, what does a purposeful day look like to you? And I think that's a good place to start. Then we talk about, I'll just go back to that blank canvas. What's the vision you have for your life? And or what's the vision you maybe had for your life that you've let kind of the dust settle on, that you need to get the little Swiffer out and get the dust off of it, but it still sits there and collects the dust, right? Because you're not doing what you're intended to, because it kind of still stays around and still nags at you, still kind of tugs at your heart a little bit. So when you think about vision, you get to pick what the vision is for your life. You're the only one that gets to pick it. And so you've got to really think about that from a very deep perspective is, if today my life ended, am I doing what I want to do? Am I loving and enjoying life the way I want to, live it every day? And so in that vision, and I think of it as like a picture, a photograph, for me, and I'll just share this to help kind of illustrate, for me, when I think about vision, I can literally feel myself standing on the beach with the grainy sand between my toes. I can hear that ocean foamy stuff rolling up on the beach. I can feel that sticky sea breeze, on my face and feel the sun, and I can hear the noises that are, so it's very sensory oriented, I think. And the more you can put the sight, sound, smell, touch, taste in that vision, the more it's going to come to life. Because like I use the example, haven't we all heard a song that just takes us somewhere? Like in just a second, it takes you back somewhere. Well, that's a sensory thing. And so it's powerful stuff when you talk about creating a vision for your life. So some people use vision boards and they'll put pictorial representations like on a cork board. I should have mine here, but I don't have it here.
I know you've done workshops where you like guide people through making boards and stuff.
Yeah. And here's the thing is like vision boards, I think are excellent. And I think you will be shocked if you start really putting a canvas for your life on a piece of paper that represents the things that you want, how the universe responds, and somehow you meet the right people, the right doors get opened, and the right things start to evolve to take you there, because subconsciously you're thinking about those things all the time when you map them out in a vision board. There's something like in your brain that really helps you ink that in. And so whatever it is for you, in your vision, whether it's having a beautiful family, getting married, having a great career, having all of that, like you don't have to pick and choose one or the other. Like this is where you dream mammoth-sized dreams, right? Don't dream small, dream big, because there's a lot of opportunity in the world that can connect you to those dreams that you have. So I think that's an important piece here as you start.
Yeah, definitely.
And so then we have our, so we have our vision for our life, and then we talk about the dreams. Well, I dream that I want to, be multi-coastal and get to travel frequently. For me, that's one of my things. So having representations of that is important.
Okay.
But having the vision and having the dream isn't enough. You've got to have goals that go with it.
Yes.
And that's really that's what we're going to dig in here and talk about. But I think the more you can stay in that creative zone, not putting limitations on finances or restrictions geographically or whatever you're thinking is putting restrictions on you. You've got to get kind of overcome that through thinking about your purpose, thinking about your vision, and thinking about your dreams first. And then let's talk about goals, and we'll talk about like how to really dig in. Do you have any questions there, Brooke? I don't know.
I love it.
I don't know if we have any questions.
There's no questions in the box so far. So you guys like let us know if you have questions, and like, is this making sense to everybody? Because I feel like this is awesome, and people totally skip that stuff. Like they just go into the goal part, but don't, you got to figure out what you're working towards first, and instead of just, a to-do list. I don't know. I feel like we skip the big picture a lot.
Yeah, and that's a great way to talk about it too, is your purpose is the big picture for you, right? And these are your fingerprints that you are the only person on the planet that has them. So stop comparing yourself to others and dream freaking big here, and it may seem impossible. Now, let me just address that from the mindset perspective. Right? We sometimes struggle in life with finances, with resources, with maybe career, maybe skill sets. There might be a journey or a process to be had here as you think about what you want in life. It might not just like magically appear like Tinkerbell. You're going to have to do some work to get there.
Yeah.
But I can assure you that we are living in an age where, we can connect with anyone in the world. And you usually can appeal to someone and ask for support or help and usually get it most of the time.
Yeah.
But you've got to have the courage to step out there and do that. And so in order to do that, though, you got to have the specificity around what it is you want. Because if someone says, hey, Brooke, I can help you with anything you want. I have all the resources, time, and money to help you. What do you need? And if you can't answer that question, then you're going to miss the opportunity when it comes.
Yep.
So that's why you got to be ready. You got to be ready.
True.
And haven't we all had somebody maybe offer help to us that at some point you're like, oh, I don't know. I'll let you know if I need something.
Yeah.
Well, if you would have thought through what you're really trying to accomplish, I bet you could say, oh, I might need help with somebody to pick up my groceries or help me carpool or help me, run errands or something. I mean, we all have something we can ask for help, but we tend to back down from that. So that's another piece, just precursor here before we dig in. So we have about, roughly 60 days to go here before the year end runs out, or just a little less than that. And so I always like to start by just having you really think about what is it right now that you can pull across the line before the end of the year that has been on your list maybe all year. It's been nagging at you. You've been procrastinating. You've been resisting it. You've been backing down from just getting in there and getting it done. What are a couple of things on your list right now that if you can hit January 1st, that you don't have to think about them anymore? What would they be? What's important right now?
Yeah.
And I would encourage you just to jot those things down. And, what are the remaining priorities that you have that you can still achieve if you get focused and get intentional?
So how, like when you're talking about these lists, how big are the things that you're talking about? Like, are you talking about like check off, little to-do list items, or I want to, launch a whole new thing? Like, where's the line?
So that's a great question. What I'm not looking for here is for you to become a taskmaster of a to-do list. Okay. Because busy work is not our life's work. Right. And so if you're going to really get intentional about designing the life you want, you're going to have to allow some space for that work to happen. And so, but let me say this, you may have a task that's nagging at you, consuming your mental energy and bandwidth, like, oh, I know I need to organize the garage, or, oh, I know I need to go clean out my closet and donate it to charity before winter, or whatever it might be for you. Those things can kind of clog up our mental capacity. And so I think it's a balance. There are things that you can check off your list that might be like, boom, simple 1 hour thing, just go get focused on it. But that's not really what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is what are some bigger things that you need to commit some time to, and find the time in your busy life and schedule to actually get intentional about getting it completed.
Okay, cool.
And so that's what we're talking about. And so, usually I would say these might be projects that could be anywhere from a 10-hour to, months and years, depending on what you're working on. But I'm not looking for like check, go clean out the kitchen drawer. And, that's not what we're talking about. Now, if that's consuming a lot of your mental energy, then you probably need to be dreaming bigger. And you also probably, yeah. If that's the kind of stuff that is consuming your bandwidth and your energy every day, I would encourage you to really sit down and think about what's important in your life, because that's not the important stuff.
Right.
It's nice to stay organized.
That's really good. That's a really good point.
Yeah. And we can get hyper focused on the wrong things. And sometimes it can be like freaking out about getting the laundry done, or, is all the household chores done? Well, those have a place in our life, but you can create rhythms and routines to kind of keep the maintenance up on those without it really consuming hardly any time.
Yeah.
And that's optimizing it.
Yes.
So think of the top projects or priorities remaining for 2018. And when I call them projects, these can be personal things like cleaning out a closet, or maybe tackling the garage, or whatever it is for you. It doesn't have to be business oriented, but it might be business or personal. And so because you only have so much time, so you got to put the important stuff on the list that you want to get done.
I like that. I like not having, two separate lists, because they really, do go together,
Yeah. And when we talk about getting intentional about time, which is probably the thing that I could spend hours with people on, is we really only have so many hours, right? We have 24 hours a day. And if we're getting good, proper rest, we're spending 8 to 9 of those sleeping. And so that leaves the remaining time to get everything else done in life that's important to us. Stay with, time with family, time at work. And so there's big chunks that start to chunk away, 8 hours of rest and 8 hours at work. Now you've taken 16 hours out of 24, you've got 8 hours left. So where are you going to fit in, taking care of family, making sure you're taking care of yourself, exercising? You've got to get intentional about that 24-hour clock. From the time you wake up till the time you go to bed, you need to think of your time as intermingled. And it's not just like I'm at work and then I'm at home. You've got to start thinking about the rhythm and routine that you're going to do all day long to be really in a high performance way there. So that's the thing, is taking a look at what can you get off your plate that you can really just say goodbye to and say success, kiss it, goodbye, and put it in the books for 2018. The next piece is going kind of back to the dreams, is what are those dream projects? What is it for you? Is it launching a business? Is it starting some side income for yourself? Is it taking better care of yourself and your health? I mean, is it maybe repairing a relationship you're in with friends, family, a spouse? What are the priorities that you really want to think about for your life? That's your life's work, those dream projects. And if time and money and resources were no issue, how would you spend that time?
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff we want to talk about. What's really important in life? Because, the thing of it is my mom was a cancer patient when I was young. And what I learned through that process is you can make more money, but the things that are important in life, you can't fix sometimes.
Yeah.
And so you have to allow some space for those things to be a part of your everyday life. So really thinking about those dream projects, maybe it's something you thought of when you were a little kid.
Yeah.
You always wanted to be whatever it is for you.
Whatever.
Some people is, a chef, a ballerina, a pilot, whatever it might be for you. The dust hasn't settled on your dreams. Your mindset has let the dust settle on your dreams. And so you have to take charge and take it back. Yes. So kind of getting back to your other point there, Brooke, about, is it a task list or is it a project list? So for 2019, the next piece of this is, once you've kind of defined what you're going to pull over the line by the close of 2018, and then you're really thinking about those things that you haven't thought about in a while because you don't feel like you have enough time, or you don't feel like you have enough resources or connections or whatever it might be for you. But then you get down to the business of what's the tactical stuff that I need to get done, right? What are the priorities for 2019? Now, most of us only go about 90 days out in our life.
Yeah.
And so when I say what's what's the most important priorities for 2019, I'm talking about the whole year.
The whole 2019.
Yeah, the whole year. Because like, if you think about project managing your life, you only have 2,080 hours that you're going to spend working in a year at work. Hopefully, most people spend more probably. So that only leaves so much left. And so you need to be thinking about the span of time, and meaningful work takes time. It takes time to think. And in our busy, busy world today, where we're connected to our cell phones every 15 seconds and getting interrupted by messages coming at us every which direction, it's important that we allow some space to think through these projects and what are the big things that can move us forward.
Yeah.
And so what are the most important projects for you in 2019? And again, I'm blending personal and business right here together, because you can't really separate them that much. And so what would be those top 2 or 3 things for you? So now we should have a list, right? The top 2 or 3 things you're going to finish before the end of the year that you know you can get accomplished. Those bigger dream projects, the visionary stuff, the visionary life that you want for yourself.
Yeah.
Where is that going to take you?
Yeah.
And that may take 2019. It may take till 2025. It may take till 2050. I don't know. But we often don't give ourselves the runway of time that it takes to achieve something.
Yeah.
And so you've got to allow some space, and especially when you're talking about bigger stuff, like launching a business. If you're going to launch a business in 2019, you're going to have a startup year, you're going to have a growth year, and then you're going to have an optimize process. So, it's not just a 1-year thing or a 90-day thing. Yeah, you can launch a business in 90 days, but you're probably not going to have all the pieces figured out. And I've been a serial entrepreneur and bootstrapped a lot of things in my life, and it takes time and energy and really being intentional about the calendar. And I don't know, now that I say that, I don't know if you can see back here on the wall, I've got like this year's calendar and next year's calendar already mapped, because you've got to lay it down, because again, this time thing can get away from you so quickly. Day to day, boom, a Sunday's gone, boom, a Saturday's gone, boom, another holiday's here. It just, time moves at a very rapid pace. So you got to get very aware of that.
Yeah, I like that too, actually putting it on the calendar and writing this down. I love that you keep like encouraging people to write it down.
Yeah.
That makes a huge difference. Just thinking about it isn't enough. Even writing it down is a commitment, in some ways. And
it is. And there's, then that's a question people ask me a lot as a coach is, well, I use an electronic calendar and then I use a paper planner, and I use a combination of both, but there is nothing better than writing it down in my own ink and words. Because if I have to transfer it day to day, and I don't have my planner in here, but I've used Franklin planners for years. I've used other planners too. I just happen to be somebody who in 90 days will destroy a planner. So it's got to be pretty robust for me to make it through my life, because I carry it everywhere, and I probably look a little dorky and geeky from time to time, but I know what my plan of action is, and I know where I'm headed at all times. And there's never a place where the captain's not at the ship wheel. I know what I'm doing. So I want you to get intentional about that for you though. And so if you are thinking like, oh, I got to go to the grocery store and I need to do this and I need to run that errand, that's not going to get it. That's not going to cut it. You have got to write these things down and get very consistent about what you're going to do. And the best way to do that is just take a few minutes before you go to bed and go, wow, well, what was great about today? What was great about today? And what can I be grateful for? I was alive, I breathed all day, I met people, I had fun, whatever it was for you. Just have a little gratitude at the end of each day for the breath of life. There's a poem that I love called The Breath of Life, and it talks about how the breath goes all day long and we just don't ever give it the credit it deserves. It's a great poem. So start with that evening, just a few minutes, give yourself that time, and then think about tomorrow. If I'm gifted tomorrow, what is tomorrow going to look like? And what do I need to really get accomplished? What's going to be important tomorrow that I know of right now? Because it changes, right? That's the thing about life, is that we get these interjected derails and construction zones in our planning.
I love all the analogies.
Yeah, the best laid plans still get interrupted, but if you can get right back to the intention of where you want to be, you're not going to stay off the road very long.
Yeah.
It's like changing a flat tire. If you know you've got roadside assistance, they're going to be on their way. You're going to be back on the road right away. It works the same with your time and your intention for the day. So do a little evening planning. Then in the morning, look at that again and set the intention for the day. Has anything changed? And then we're going to have interruptions that are going to come.
Yeah.
And so you've got to deal with those, right? They're real. Sometimes the kids get sick. You got to go pick them up at school, or some other crisis might come up. Just know that the best laid plans are going to have the best laid results. And so even with the interruptions, you still have a better chance of getting where you want to be by simply just making a plan each day. And one of the things that people will say to me is, well, I don't want to rewrite it all the time. Like if I didn't get it done today, I don't want to write it again tomorrow. Well, part of writing it again, there's two things that happen. One is you're either going to commit to getting it done because you're tired of writing it down, or it's going to get so ingrained in your subconscious, you're actually going to start to think about a plan to actually make it happen, or you're going to challenge yourself. Is this really even important?
Yeah, I like that. I like, the micro check-ins like that every day. I think that's super important. So do you also do like bigger picture check-ins as well? So obviously you don't just plan the whole year right now and then don't look at the big picture again. So how often do you do that, and what does that process look like?
Yeah, so I think the perfect plan to lay out, and again, for those of you that might be new to this is going to sound pretty geeky and pretty overwhelming, but you want to have that daily intention. I like to use Sundays as a day for resetting so many things for the week. One is I have been on trying to improve my own health. And so I've been doing my meal planning, and meal planning happens on Sundays to me for my life, and getting all the right food and getting it all prepped up. And I'm starting to enjoy it now. And like, I don't want to go eat out because it's more easy and convenient. I want to just do it at home. So having that weekly check-in is important. Then I think you have a monthly check-in, like the months roll by pretty fast. I know in my Facebook group, I'm always putting up, hey, we're at we just kicked off the 1st of November, and this week we're going to be visiting the middle of November, And so just checking in with yourself. So I recommend, doing I always like to do a mid-month check-in because it just, time goes by so fast in our daily lives. And then a month check-in. And when I say these check-ins, these aren't like comprehensive reviews of all the things you've done. But if you've been using a planner or some method and jotting things down as you go, a 10 or 15 minute review of how did I do this week? Or how did I do this the first part of this month? Or how did I do the whole month? That starts to build the results. And what I love to talk about there is when you do that, you kind of have an evidence journal that gets started. And you can start to see your results. And when you see your results, just like when you go to the gym and you start to see the results, you want to do it more.
Yes. It
kind of feeds our soul a little bit. And so I like to, so monthly check-ins, just quick ones, and then quarterly, like, okay, because in a quarter, 90 days, a lot of things can change. And what you set out to do, just like we're talking about pre-2019 stuff here, what you might set a target for right now, like between now and the end of March, it may shift a little bit because you may take a different direction. So it's important that you revisit what's important, because you may outsource something, or you may decide that that's for a later date, or you may decide it might need to move up. The priorities shift and change in 90 days differently than they do every week or every month. So I do think it's important that you revisit. So again, keeping those top 3 projects, personal and professional, mixed together, because you don't want to have 15 projects, because we could all make a list of 15 projects, right? The 10 at home and the 10 at work, or whatever. But that's not what what we're looking for is the most important work that's going to move you toward your life's work. And so that's why that's important. And then of course doing a mid-year check-in and an end-of-year check-in. But again, as you get more familiar with this process and go through it, it happens pretty naturally. It doesn't, it's not all consuming, like you have some big planning session with yourself. it can be as quick as just jotting it down a couple of bullets.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to get intense. Now, if you're super hardcore into this, you're going to list it, you're going to bullet it out, you're going to put dates, you're going to hit targets, percentages done, you're going to be a project manager of your life. That's the other end of the spectrum. You might be one of those people.
Yeah. So I think that's really important too, though. Just like you said, go back, check in, but also so that you can see the results. Like you said, I think that's really important too, because it's so easy to like stay on your task list and not take a minute to recognize all the shit that you are accomplishing, and you might not realize it, and just see those wins, I think is really powerful. So we did have a couple of comments too. I know a couple of people joined late. So Amber, we were talking about daily planning, not necessarily like journaling though. So she says she's so bad at journaling, and so am I. I'm not great at journaling. So what I really liked about what Michelle was saying was like doing the daily stuff was like the gratitude check-in. I think that's like super, super powerful. So just take a second daily to be thankful for something and be grateful, and then kind of go through, okay, what did I get done and what do I need to do tomorrow? It's totally doable for me. That I'm not a journal. I've tried to journal, and I'm just
yeah, that's a great point. Journaling is a very hot topic in self-development and high performance, and it is really personally different for every person. I am super ADD, so for me to sit and journal page after page and reflect and think about, I just, first of all, I don't have the bandwidth, and I just don't have the concentration that takes.
Yeah.
So my journaling, it really is the gratitude.
I end up coloring all over the page.
Right. It's a couple of sentences or a couple of bullets or just some key highlights that I can go back and remember for myself about what's important there. A lot of people add their kind of spiritual piece here in the journaling. And so they may do some devotional type stuff or, Bible studying, whatever it might be for you. That comes into play here a little bit when we talk about journaling. But some people love to journal. They're writers by nature. So they may journal a whole day worth of stuff. So there's no right or wrong answer. And so you got to find the method that works for you. And just challenge yourself to start a little bit. If you're not doing this yet, you're not going to go from 0 to 100. That's not how we win the race. We start and we build a habit and stick to it. So if you're not doing any of this today, I would encourage you just to start with that nightly check-in and do that consistently for 7 days, and then reflect. Hey, in the last 7 days, what were some things that maybe I did that I hadn't been paying attention to?
Yeah. So do you also have a daily practice or a check-in for the stuff we were talking about at the beginning? Like, feeling those feelings of yourself standing on the beach and stuff. Is that part of your daily or monthly or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Connecting with the vision is important. And that's why I say, the more you can add the sensory to it, and again, I kind of use music as the example, like when you hear that favorite song and that takes you back to a place, or you see that picture of yourself where you were like looking all haughty, and you looked your best, you felt your best, and that energy comes through in that picture. Revisiting those things, again, it just kind of embeds it into our subconscious we all have a picture, right? That we know it's like, this is the best picture I've ever had taken of myself. So use that one when you're thinking about health, right? Or so revisiting it is important because it takes work. There is no magic pill for any of this stuff. If you are going to live a visionary life, you are going to have to get intentional. And guess what? You're going to have to roll your sleeves up and do a little work. Now, if you can get real intentional and focused, then it takes less time because you've planned it. So if you're one of those people that's going, oh crap, I don't have time to do this. This sounds like a lot of time. Well, I'm going to give you some time back, because when you get intentional, you're going to get more control over your time, which is going to make you feel less stressed, less chaotic, less worn out, less frazzled, less, oh my God, like I can't take on one more thing, because you're going to know what you're going to do every day. And so you're not going to have to think about that. And so, revisiting the vision is very, very important. And, for some people, they might need to think about it a couple of times a day. Like if you're working on health goals, you might need to check in with yourself at every mealtime, because it's about being mindful around what it is that's important to you. And so if you only look at that picture once a week and then you eat fast food and don't work out and have bad habits, then that's probably not going to get you there.
Right.
It's the intention behind it.
I love it.
So in high performance, how we tie all this together is in kind of doing the back to the check-in. So, there's the time bound check-in, right? The weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually stuff. But then, as I mentioned earlier, we focus on like clarity, energy, courage, productivity, and influence. So I think it's important that you check
Sorry,
in.
I don't mean to interrupt you. Amber just says she bagged a trash bag full of sand at the beach this year to visualize her at the beach.
Oh my gosh, that's a great idea.
I love it. That's perfect.
Yeah, Amber and I could hang together because like I can feel that sand. I haven't ever thought about bringing any of it home because I don't know if they'll let me, but that's and I'd have to pay extra luggage fees.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, the more you can create that sensory experience though that she's talking about is so important. So important. Because like the sight, the sound, the smell, the taste, the touch, when we can get that in our blood and really feel it, it's that stuff that gives you goosebumps that we're talking about. Like I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about the beach and just being there in the midst of that.
Yeah.
And how it recharges me. So I have that so ingrained now that it's almost like when I close my eyes and think about it, I'm there.
Yes.
I get the same experience almost.
You're really good at it. That's something that I have tried to start incorporating into my, daily life. And I'm still working on like being good at that visualization process. I don't feel like I'm there yet, but I'm working on it.
Yeah. And that's a great point, Brooke, that you bring up because, like I'm a creative in some ways and you're creative in other ways, right? We're different in our creative toolbox, but visualization takes you have to it's like working a muscle, right? Because our concentration up here is like, it's interrupted all the time. So to really visualize, you got to have that space for the picture to come into focus.
Yes.
And so that's important. Like this might not feel real natural at first because until you really have the clarity about what you want, it's going to be impossible to paint a picture around it.
Exactly.
And for me, what I tell people is as a creative person, if I cannot visualize it pictorially speaking, like if I can't think of it as a snapshot or a photograph, then I probably won't be able to get there because it's that powerful for me.
Yeah.
Now that may not be true for other people, but like if I can't get the exact scene inked in of what's happening and who's there with me and what's going on, then it's going to be difficult. I just know it has to be that clear for me.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Yeah, you can't visualize it until you know what it is.
Right. And so a lot of people get stuck in I don't know what it is, which is why I started with purpose, because that's often where it's like, oh, well, I don't, Susie knows her purpose, and Jill knows her purpose, but I don't know what my purpose is. Like the light hasn't shined down on me and told me yet, but that's not what purpose is. I mean, it's really finding the intentional life that you want to lead and being mindful of that. So clarity is another piece when we talk about high performance, like checking in on these different areas is important, right? Because there will be seasons where things go out of balance, right? And we're working hard on something because we're not going to have harmonious balance every day, every minute of our day. That's just not reality. But we can be intentional about keeping it very balanced and smooth paced. And that's the distinction, is kind of eliminating the chaos and the noise, but keeping it moving forward, that sustained performance over the long haul. So we do that by checking in on clarity, right? Maybe at that quarterly check-in, how clear are these things that I'm working on? Are these still the same things I should be working on? Has anything new came in to the picture that I need to consider? And one of the things that we teach is just simply scaling it, like on a scale of 1 to 10, how clear are you on what you want your 2019 goals to be? And this is very subjective, right? Because it might be based on a little bit of your mood or what's happened that day. But you may say, well, I feel like maybe I'm a 4. Well, you probably have some work to do. Or you may say, well, I think I'm pretty clear. I'm a 7. Well, wherever you are, there's always another level. There's always another level. So even if you said, you know what, I got this, like I know I'm still clear, I'm a 10. Well, let me tell you, there's an 11 for you out there.
I love that. Yeah. And I totally believe that also.
Right. And so again, this is where I go back to your fingerprints. Do not make comparisons to your friends, your peers, your coworkers, or anyone else on the planet, because God made you unique and you're the only person that has the fingerprint and identity that you have. And so just make a plan for your freaking self and go for it and stop
Amen.
worrying about what everybody else is doing.
Yes.
This is a big barrier for people.
Yes.
Okay, so we go through clarity, scale it 1 to 10, boom, where are you? And then let's see, where do we need to get more clear?
Mhm.
What's not clear? You know, energy, same thing on a scale of 1 to 10. Like if I would just ask you, Brooke, like what did your energy feel like today on a scale of 1 to 10?
Like -4. I laid on the couch all day. That's not true. I did buy a couch today and moved it, but yeah, not good. I need my energy up.
Yeah. So energy is a big thing we tackle. And I think energy goes hand in hand with productivity, because let's just face it, if you don't feel like in the mornings, if you're like over there feeling where the alarm clock is going off and you're hitting the snooze button and you're dragging getting up, you need to focus on energy more importantly than you do productivity.
Yeah.
You still need to create a plan for your day, but you have some energy work to do. Now, when we say energy, everybody goes, oh, I know I need to eat better and I know I need to exercise and get healthier, right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot more to energy than just those couple of things.
Yeah.
Like right now, if you were to just think about your mental energy,
Mhm.
you know, can you close your eyes and run a race in your mind? Can you run down a beach or run down a path and just imagine yourself going super, super, super fast? See, that's mental energy, and we can control a lot of our mental energy. And again, going back to those things that elevate us and things that drain us, whoo, there's a control factor there, right?
Yeah.
Again, trying to keep it as even keeled as possible so that we're not having spikes, energy spikes or energy drain spikes, trying to keep that consistent. And these are important things that you check in on as well, because you can't really have high productivity and low energy.
Right. You need they all need to work together.
and that's where this interconnectedness comes from. Then the other piece is courage. Like, when was the last time you really challenged yourself to do something bold and brave?
Well, that's kind of that's my thing. So
I know.
I sent out an email last week and the subject line was my favorite F words. So that was my
Yes, I laughed. I love that email when I got it. I was like, she is something.
I had really high unsubscribe rates, but I also had really high click-through rates too. So I'll take it.
Yeah. And that's a great point that you make there, just in that example, because when we're courageous and bold and we step into who we really are, which is what that email that you sent out really was, like you're just going, hey, I'm just going to F this and that, right? Yeah. Like it's all about the F words.
Yeah.
That might eliminate somebody from being that's connecting with your message or who you are, but it also may attract somebody who says, wow, she's pretty bold. I'd like to be more like her. So challenging yourself, like a scale of 1 to 10, again, like how courageous have you felt lately? And for those listening out there, are you kind of hesitating? Are you back? And I always like to say, we talk about fear and mindset. Fear rides along with us everywhere we go, right? And there's like a volume that we can give it. And so you kind of have to keep the volume turned down. But sometimes it's not fear, like scary fear, like big, risky, scary, devastation's going to come if I don't do this or that. It shows up more often like procrastination,
yes,
resistance, a defiance, internal defiance, self-defiance. Like,
I mean, I'm good at that one.
yeah. And I mean, do you ever like go, okay, I know I need to get this done, but you know what? I think I'll do that in a minute. I'm going to go work on this instead. Right. There's something else instead that you can always insert so you don't have to go work on that. That kind of behavior is really important when we talk about courage, because you've got to be willing to fight that resistance off. And you got to recognize it. Okay. And this is a good start. It's like, this is a good check-in for yourself is, why am I not wanting to do this right now? And maybe it's too hard. Maybe it's not, you're not in the right mood, whatever it is, you got to identify the resistance that's coming up for you, because our internal habit will be to go to what we're comfortable with and what we're certain about, instead of challenging ourselves to go into that bold unknown.
Yes. So true.
And so just checking in with yourself on courage. And then productivity is the same way, like on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel about how your productivity's been the past 24 hours, the past week, the past month? You can ask yourself a series of questions and go, well, last week I really knocked it out of the park. I maybe was a 9. Well, okay, what could you have done to make it even a little higher? Again, there's always that next level.
Yep.
And then the last piece that we check in on in high performance is influence. And this is where all relationships and persuasion and influence occur. And this is an important dimension. Again, relationships in life are very much like time. They spread across your whole entire day. They encompass your business and your family and your friends. And so you need to think about the influence you have with people. And, are you a likable person? Are you showing up nice to people? And are you and if you're in a miserable job and a miserable marriage and you're struggling financially and you don't have a good attitude, you're probably not showing up as your best self.
Right.
Or there might be, most people don't have that dramatic stuff going on, but we go through seasons in life where life can hit us pretty hard.
Yeah.
And so just addressing those waves, right? And knowing, right now, who's the most important person in your life that you want to focus on the relationship with? Mm-hmm. Maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a child, maybe it's a spouse, maybe it's a friend who needs you. What could you do to just level up from where you've been? How could you be more committed to that relationship?
Yeah.
So I think as you think about the projects and the task, you also have to think about these high performance pillars, because again, going back to that clock, we have to include all of this in that 24 hours. Yeah. And the people who really shine in life and those ones that we go, man, where does their energy come from? Or where does that vibrancy come from? Or they're always amazingly happy and joyous, right? And you want some of that. They're owning their time and they're owning the intention of their life, and they're leading a visionary life for themselves. And so those are some of the things that in high performance we really focus on, in addition to just the basic stuff, right? And again, this stuff sounds simple, but you really practice writing this down and doing this for a month. Believe me, like day 12 is like, oh, maybe I'll get to that. And you got to kick yourself in the butt and get back in the game, right?
Yes.
It's important.
It is.
You pay attention.
So we had a ton of comments come in too. So I'm going to go back and read.
Okay, good.
Let's see here. Okay, so there's Amber bringing her sand. So cut back up. Okay, she totally wants to hang out with you. Let's see. Paula says, so can we say that we can find our purpose by looking at how we want our life to end and working backwards to know how to achieve what it is we really want for our life to be? I think that's a really cool way to look at that.
There's a couple of perspectives. Certainly working backwards is one of them, but since we don't know our time grant in this life,
that's true too.
you got to challenge yourself there a little bit. But that's a great place to start. Like when you think about legacy, and I think that's maybe where she was headed.
Yeah.
Is if I leave this earth tomorrow, what are my friends going to say about me? What impression have I left on this world? What contribution have I made? Yeah. Who have I served? Have I lived? Did my life matter to myself or others? So I think from that legacy perspective, there is, there's that reflective piece that you can go back, like, and even where you're at right now. One of the things that's always a good exercise is to go, what would you tell your younger self?
Yeah.
Well, that younger self could be when you were 10 or 20 or 40 or 50, or if you were my grandma, she might tell her younger self at 83 because she's 93, And so having that perspective is good. And I think that that's one way to look at that to help define it. Like, how do you want your life to be remembered?
Yeah, that's cool. But I like, that you challenged it too, though, because we're not always promised tomorrow. So, we never are. Amber said she misses being able to do nothing some days. Yeah, it's good. It's good for me to do that sometimes. I need that do nothing day sometimes.
Yeah. And when you do get intentional about your time, you do get that bandwidth back to do that. And you need to allow space for your mind not to have to think about anything.
Yes.
right?
Yes.
We're so plugged into these devices, turn
Oh,
these off an hour before you're going to start to go to bed.
yeah.
Do not sit in your bed and watch your phone and watch things, because all this does is keep
I
your
have a
mind
bad
like, it's
habit
like
of that.
wired. There's like an antenna going,
Yeah.
and you got to unplug from this so that your brain can do what it's designed to do, which is be this creative, soulful person that you are.
Yes. 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 That is like really high on my priority list of things to stop doing.
Yeah. And I tell people all the time, if you don't have enough discipline, leave this in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Go stick it in your garage or whatever you got to do to get it off your bed. Because it's a romance killer for sure. So if you want to improve your relationship with your spouse, just take this out of the bedroom.
Funny. That is such a good point too. Okay, let's see here. Amber and Paula liked my F word email. Good to know. Amber says, I'm just qualifying those of us who love me. Tammy, who is my mom and Michelle's best friend, that's why I've known her my entire life, says sassy confidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Paula says that's a really good way to help focus on a relationship. Sometimes I get so busy that they slip through, and I'm trying to be more intentional about relationships. Yeah, I really like that you included that in there too. That whole influence piece. Like a lot of people talk about, the other stuff in different ways, but that influence piece is really like something totally different that I don't hear a lot. So I really liked that too.
Yeah, it is important. And, even just being present with somebody, the gift of presence is really important.
Yeah.
And I'll just share kind of a personal story. My husband's mom was recently diagnosed with a terminal brain tumor. And this has happened recently, like October 7th, and it's affecting her profoundly already. And, when we went to visit, she wasn't really able to get up, but she was still conscious and able to talk to us. But just sitting there with her being present.
Yeah.
And, she's a master gardener. So we talked about some gardening things, and we talked about maybe things that were important in her life and her children and grandchildren. And because I'm married to her son, and we've never had this occasion to have this private conversation before, I just told her some of the things that I had observed as what a great mom she must have been, to be a teacher. She was a committed first grade teacher for like 30 years. And she spent her whole life being a teacher. And so just, we probably would have never had that conversation had the circumstance not came about. But just knowing the person in front of you is a live human being, and there's no telephone ringing or text message or YouTube video that replaces human interaction.
Yeah.
And we are meant to be soulful, heartfelt people with each other and to care for one another. And so being present has this, you can, even if you do nothing but change your presence with people, they will notice immediately. And you will start to have people comment to you, wow, I just, this has been such a deep conversation, or because you get connected and you go somewhere together, being present with people. So it's really an important piece. And, every moment, whether it's your kid that's interrupted you for the 40th time today, or whether it's your spouse that, maybe it hadn't been such a great day and you're on each other's nerves a little bit. Just starting to go back to that gratitude. What can I appreciate here? What would my life be like if they weren't here? And what can I do to make a difference in this moment? Make it a positive, happy moment. That just that one simple change can change everything.
Yes, I love that. That's so that's a huge thing for me too. Like it drives me nuts when people are just not present, so I that's like one of my intentions that I go into every time I talk to a person. That's like the number one thing I try to focus on. I'm like, I'm going to be as present as possible in this conversation. And you're right, like people have said stuff to me about that before. Like you can tell when someone is genuinely present, it's super important.
Yeah, and that comes through physically, like through our eye contact, through our body language, through our tonality. I mean, we all know when we have a conversation with somebody that, it didn't land well, or so just becoming happier, friendlier, more outgoing, more present. That's a big piece of this relationship piece. How are you showing up? And if you're a crank every day because you're not getting enough sleep and you don't have your life in an organized manner that's really you're in control and everything feels chaotic and overwhelmed and out of control, then you can easily take some action here that's not going to require a lot of time to really change the pace and mood of things for yourself and for those that are around you.
Yes, I love it. This has been so awesome. This is like our longest one ever too, and I'm loving it. Like it's all so good stuff. So good stuff. That was grammatically not correct, but you know what I mean. Amber also says she leaves her phone in the living room. Good for you, Amber. I need to start doing that.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So before we hop off then, do you want to talk about your giveaway, your freebie that we put the link to?
Yes. So it's just an easy download for you on what I consider, after coaching thousands of hours and talking to people of all walks of life, the top 3 things that you can do to the top 3 tips for high performance. And it's just got 3 simple tips. And when you read them, you're going to think, oh, that's easy. That's simple. And the first one on there is sleep. And I'm telling you, if you'll just get focused around getting better sleep, getting the right amount of sleep, you will not believe what will happen to your energy. And then once you get to that threshold, you will never give it back. Sleep will become ultra important, and you won't stay up till midnight or 1 cleaning the kitchen counters and sweeping the floor.
Priorities.
So that's the free giveaway. And it's just high performance tips that I just think are the most critical out of all the ones I coach and teach on. And, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them, or you can reach out to me via email, whatever. You can find me on social media as well.
Well, I just put in the link to your website to get that. It's also in the event, but I put it in here also. So yeah. And
so the other thing I would just share, and maybe we can throw this link somewhere in here, is I have a questionnaire that I challenge people with, and it's interesting because some people will respond with, well, I don't want to fill out a questionnaire. And that's okay. You're probably not ready for change in your life if you're not willing to answer a few questions about yourself. But if you're really serious about maybe just taking a look at yourself across all these areas that we're talking about, then you can go to michellehammonds.coach. There's a little video there that kind of talks about what we've been talking about, but then there's the questionnaire. And even if you do nothing but read the questions and answer them for yourself, then I think you've spent some time on something really important. But if you want to hit submit and you want to have a conversation with me, we can certainly do that. And we go through that together, and it's a very powerful session together. And that's just what I do to help you discover who you are and who you want to become and leading a visionary life for yourself.
Cool. I love that. So I put that link in as well. And like I said, I've known Michelle literally my entire life, and she knows her shit. She is amazing. You've been like my motivational coach before you even did it as a job.
I know. I've just seen you grow into this amazing woman, and it's awesome.
Thank you. You played a part in it. Like, you were there, and I so appreciate you for always being the one that was like telling me that I can do whatever I want to do, like
that's true. We had a couple of conversations like that. Can I share like one of my favorite memories of you? So when Brooke was probably, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9, she was really little, but she was always super artistic, there's no surprise why she's doing creative branding work today, because that's in her blood. It's been there since. It's a God-given talent. And I think we're all gifted with creative talents. But she had that idea when she was a little girl to make some cards, and that had like stick figures on them, that she was very entrepreneurial even back then. And so that always sticks with me because, if you have kids, don't be a dream stealer, right? Because it might have been easy for us to say, oh, Brooke, that's too much time, or that's too complicated, or we don't have a printer that'll print those cards, or whatever. But I remember being at your mom's and working on those cards, and you were really learning Photoshop then, even as a young kid. And so don't be a dream stealer to others. It'd be my parting message. Be somebody's cheerleader and cheer them on for what they may really want in life and what you want in life. Be your own cheerleader for that, because you know what? Nobody's going to get on the field and do it better than you are. And so you got to do it for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one of my favorite Brooke stories.
I've talked about that before. I named it Brookmark, and I made like a little logo and everything. And then, yeah, my grandma told me what BM meant. Yeah, my mom just put in Brookmark. Like, it was like a little BM logo. And then my grandma was like, you know, that means poop, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, thank you. Dream crusher.
Yeah. And you know what? It's little simple things like that. That's a great example where we'll just rob it from somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
One little thing that might hold you back,
Yeah.
you know, and you can't do that to people. You got to let them live their own dream and their own path.
Yes. Well, thank you for being that person for me when I was 8 and 9 years old, and still. But
well,
that's
thank you. I so appreciate it. And like I said, if you have anybody has any questions, you know how to get a hold of me. I'm happy to, visit.
Yes, yes, yes. So thank you all for staying on and hanging out with us, and we'll be back soon. Michelle, you also have a radio show. I'm going to be a guest on Michelle's show on tomorrow, right?
Yeah, it's tomorrow. It's at 5:00 Central Time, and it's the Creativity Playbook live radio show where we talk about living your best life through your creative strengths. And Brooke's going to be sharing her story about her journey in learning what her creative strengths were and how she's using them now in her life to live a life of freedom and fun and connecting with all of you guys.
Yay. So if you just can't get more of us, then come see us. It'll be fun.
Yes. Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Well, everyone have a great night, and we will talk soon. Thank you, Michelle.
All right. Thank you. See you later.
Bye.